it's the job of the Prime Minister to provide the evidence in order for MPs to examine that evidence and decide which they want to vote. It's not my job to do that. I've expressed my view on this. I take the view that there needs to be a final plan. I don't see that at the moment. I take the view there needs to be thought given to which ground forces are going to be supported. I don't see progress on that at the moment. I do take the view that there's no difference in reality between Iraq and Syria. The border's effectively disappeared. But what troubles me is that what concerns me is that we should not do what happened in Iraq more than a decade ago, and that is to take military action without thinking about what the end game is and how to bring peace to Syria. And I do not see sufficient evidence of that yet on the part of the Prime Minister. Well, the Leader of the Opposition is now saying that he is in favour of British ground forces being used in Syria.
Anywhere in the world.
That's what he's just said.
Anywhere in the world.
I do find that worrying, because that's certainly not my view. It's certainly not the view of the Prime Minister either, but that is exactly what he has just said. The view that I take is that I would not want to see British forces being in a position where politicians had not given sufficient thought to what those forces were there to do. And it means ensuring, first of all, that we understand which sides are being supported in Syria, which ground forces. The Prime Minister has not made that clear. Are we looking at the Peshmerga and the Free Syrian Army? Are we looking at any others? Because there are forces more moderate than ISIL in Syria, but they're not people who we would regard as moderate in terms of the people who support them. He's right to point out that Daesh, call them what we want, the Islamic State, need to be eradicated, but airstrikes will not do that on their own. They will target, that's true, some in that organisation, but civilians will also get hurt. Now, it's important to understand that airstrikes are a part of what needs to be a far bigger and broader plan. They are not sufficient on their own. The only way in which you remove ground forces is to support ground forces, perhaps through airstrikes, but ultimately thinking about what happens at the end. The reason why Syria has been destabilised is because there's not been a coherent and consistent international view as to which side or sides should be supported in the ground war. Until that's clear, it's very difficult to see what airstrikes would achieve beyond creating a situation where Daesh remains on the ground, but we see more and more civilian casualties. If there's evidence to suggest that it would support ground forces in their objective of ridding that part of the world from Daesh, if there's evidence to suggest that it would shorten the conflict, if there's evidence to suggest that it would lead to a plan for peace in Syria, then if that evidence is strong enough, as I have said, I would personally support airstrikes. But that evidence is not yet there, and my concern is that too much emphasis is being given to airstrikes and not enough to what needs to be done in order to bring peace to Syria. No, there's a free vote on this issue at Westminster. It's for each member of Parliament to make up his or her own mind as to how they wish to vote. But nevertheless, I do take the view that as the UK Parliament considers this issue, that it considers the issue of how to bring peace to Syria in the broadest possible sense. Airstrikes, it could be argued, can suppress the capacity for terrorist attacks. They cannot remove the capacity for terrorist attacks. That can only be done by removing the threat on the ground. And I have to say, at this moment in time, I don't believe that there is sufficient evidence before Parliament, or indeed the people of Wales and the people of the UK, to suggest that airstrikes on their own would act in a way to shorten the war and remove the threat of Daesh. Nor do I believe that there is sufficient information that would allow us to conclude that, that support is being given to a substantial ground force. The Prime Minister's talked of 70,000. It's not clear where those 70,000 ground forces are or which organisations they represent. So at this moment in time, I have to say I don't think the evidence is there to justify airstrikes. That evidence may strengthen in the days and weeks to come, but at this moment in time, it's not there.